dance thing announced?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah,
Okay,
I'm ready.
Harmonix, which is the creators of Dance Central, which is personally my favorite dance game other than Just Dance. Dance Central is basically Microsoft's official version of Just Dance. Well, Harmonix, I guess they make a lot of music rhythm games. They announced, which I was disappointed they did not show off, because I thought they were going to show this. They announced Fantasia Music Evolved, which was supposed to be like a Disney music game. And I was like, I really wonder how that is. And I'm like, cool, they're going to show it. And he's like, anyway, moving on. I'm like, what?
I know.
I was like, I want to see.
Okay, so was this supposed to? Maybe I didn't catch it right. Was this supposed to be associated with the Disney Fantasia, or were they just using the name?
No, it was Disney.
Really, it was Disney, and they glossed over it.
Yeah, like they really glossed over it. It's as if they were just announcing it, like they just built it right then and there. They're like, oh, by the way, we're doing Fantasia, just to kind of like Dance Central crap. I'm like, how do you dance to that?
Fantasia
like,
music, dramatic
I'm thinking of Squidward tentacles like jiggling around to it. I'm like,
it's like turn, dancing.
I'm like,
Because I do not remember.
Well, that's how subtle their announcement was. It was just kind of like, oh yeah, we made Fantasia. Hold on, anyway. So
that was basically it. They're like, here it is. Okay, moving on. So,
but I think there was a reason for that, because remember what we were saying about Microsoft. Basically, it was like their subtle apology to try to focus on the core games. They probably would feel like, oh, this isn't something that would interest our audience. We're trying to recapture. So they probably just grazed over that.
Fair enough.
Because Disney isn't a big enough franchise that they might make a few bucks off of it.
I know, right?
Yeah. And then what their main announcement was a new Dance Central, because everyone's wondering where Dance Central was, and I was one of those few people, even if I don't have a console to play it, because they're all on the Xbox consoles, and I don't feel like there's enough games on Xbox consoles for me to buy it if I'm just going to get Dance Central, come on. No, I'll just stick with Just Dance then. But they made a new one.
Wise choice.
So they announced that it did make a new one, but it kind of seems like it's showing that they're not competing very well against Just Dance, because it's kind of like this was just for fan service, and this game isn't even getting like a physical release. It's just a download called Dance Central Spotlight, and they didn't really talk much about it. It's kind of like, wow, is Dance Central just not up for this? So I guess some Dance Central fans could be kind of upset. I might kind of be, but it doesn't really make a difference since I'm not going to get the console anyway. But we can move on if you guys are ready.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, so the next well-known IP of Microsoft that has a bit of a following, I'd say, is...
Gee, I wonder who.
Is Fable Legends, they announced. It's their new Fable game. If you guys don't know what Fable is, you guys know what Fable is, right?
I know what it is.
Okay.
I've heard of it, but I've never played any of the games.
I've never played it either, but...
It's kind of like a fantasy RPG, isn't it?
Yeah, it's kind of like Microsoft's official one, which it kind of feels like a lot of their fan base doesn't really care about RPGs, so it's kind of funny that that's one of their IPs, but it's one of them that's somehow strived. But, I played a bit of the old ones before, and I just didn't really get into it. I was kind of like, for something like this where you can, for one of these kind of games where one thing that always made it stand out is every decision you make changes the whole game. Basically, like, you could even get a divorce, and you have children, and then families separate, and little details like that, and everything changes what you did, so I always thought that was cool. But other than that, I was like, if I want to play something like this, I'll just stick with Elder Scrolls. I prefer Elder Scrolls. It's just me.
It honestly, the way that it's designed, the way that these characters looked and they played, if this is the game I'm thinking of, because I'm looking at images of it right now, it honestly made me think of Shrek.
You know what?
Wow.
You know what's funny?
That bad?
The original one's art styles were pretty similar. If you'd say it kind of had like a quirky fantasy look, but this one is the first one that has a more serious look, actually.
Just the way these characters are looking, like this one princely looking guy, I don't even remember his name, if he even had a name. He reminded me of Prince Charming, just like a really...
I guess that's also something that made me not that interested. It just seems like it's just very... I don't know. It's just like...
Yeah, Avery says, Elder Scrolls looks better than Fable in my opinion. I've never actually seen any gameplay of it. Most I've ever seen from Fable is the cover art, and the cover art looks nice.
Oh yeah, the cover art. If you're gonna go by cover art, I just choose to not judge a book by its cover because its cover art is fantastic looking compared to its actual art.
That's a good example of it. But I'm not into Western RPGs anyway, so
Gosh, Kona.
Yeah.
Gosh, I'm just kidding.
Alicia.
Ooh, Kona.
She's like, ew.
Kona Dasso.
That's my name. Ew.
I'm sorry. I just had to.
Well, one thing that was
I love you, Katie.
I love you too.
one thing that was supposed to be new about this Fable was it was heavily focused on co-op. It kind of seems like it was so focused on it that it probably completely changed how the game used to function. I'm wondering now if you can even make choices that change anything, because not everyone all at once can make choices to change everything, so I don't know how it goes.
Yeah, when I saw this, I just couldn't help but think, what am I looking at exactly? Like, they're talking about how you can do this and that, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, what if you're playing by yourself? Do they just kind of do those things by themselves? I don't know what they're trying, I don't know, maybe they should have specified on that a bit more, maybe I'm just a noob who doesn't know anything about Fable, and that's true too, but I was like, so you can play as the villain, you can play as this person, and that person, and this person, your dog. I'm like,
Oh yeah, that's right. I think they did show about you playing as a villain. Yeah, I have that in my notes, yeah.
I was like, oh, that's the case, aren't you just kind of like fighting yourself if you're controlling the villain and the good guy? I'm just like, I'm really confused, because it seems like just a multiplayer game. I'm like,
play as the rabbits, play as the birds!
Play as that dead thing on the side of the road!
It's like Oprah comes in and you get a character and you get a character!
Yeah, it's just like, gosh.
Everyone gets a
I don't know what to
character!
think of it. I don't know what to think of it, probably because I'm not a fan, so...
Well, that is kind of cool that you can play as the villain, though, because I don't know about any of you guys, but a lot of times in games, I sometimes kind of want to play as the villain. That's like, they used to have a game series, 2 game series on PC. One was called X-Wing and one was called TIE Fighter. X-Wing, you're basically an X-Wing pilot and you go around and fly all these missions against the Empire. Well, it was so successful, they made TIE Fighter, which is basically the same thing as X-Wing, except for you are a TIE Fighter pilot. You've got like your own little squad and you go around fighting the rebels. Also, it's one thing I love about being a dungeon master in Dungeons & Dragons. You get to play all the bad guys.
Which is a brilliant concept. It's
It is.
something developers should play around with more often.
Kind of reminds me of back in the, like, again, totally off topic, we're derailing the train, okay?
It's okay, this train doesn't have a track. We go to our own flow.
Flying in outer space,
Yeah.
like,
We're like the neon cat of trains.
Well, like, the whole villain concept kind of came to mind, especially since, I know you're gonna hate this, Dani, but,
Oh, sorry, you didn't say it yet.
Game Grumps, for example, is playing Shadow the Hedgehog, and it brought back terrible memories of that game, but when I played it, I wound up getting a bad ending because I did a lot of bad things without realizing I was doing bad things.
But can we be honest here? Is there really a good ending to that game?
There is, actually. But, like, I just kept getting the bad ending, and I couldn't understand why. I was probably too young, but, the thing is, apparently, all this time, you had an option to be good, and I was too busy killing all the good guys. I was like, this is fun, killing everybody,
You know, this explains a lot. I'm just kidding.
So it's kind of fascinating, and I know many games do this now, today, where, kind of depending on the choices you make, you end up being the good guy or the bad guy. And I feel like it's kind of something more that they should dive into, even though it's kind of being more expressed now today. I feel like we need more games like that, you know? Except not as crappy as Shadow the Hedgehog.
I
I'm like,
hope
what the heck?
not.
There's nothing crappier than Sonic the Hedgehog.
Well, there is also the actual Sonic the Hedgehog game.
We don't talk about the third one. Okay, moving on!
Yeah, moving on.
Having grown up as a Nintendo fanboy, yeah. Moving on.
Okay, so we're 40 minutes in. We're waiting for Avery to come back, because the next game I know is one that he's interested in. Let's take a break so I can stop this recording, so just in case if we lose anything, if I do shorter recordings in between, we're less likely to. So let's take a break, okay? Then
Yeah, that's cool.
Okay, that's what we're gonna do now, so we're gonna be back soon. Okay.